Inspiration for Teachers podcast, bringing you dynamic and inspirational educator interviews. Our fascinating guests share their professional challenges and creative resolutions for success. Discover their workable strategies, ideas, and resources to reach your educational goals. And now your host, Kelly Long.
Welcome to another episode of Inspiration for Teachers. I'm your host, Kelly Long, and have another episode of the practical kind lined up for you today. If you're new to the show, I usually have the honour of interviewing a leading educationalist. Together we discuss a specific educational challenge that my guest has encountered and some of the solutions they have developed in order to add ideas to your educational sphere. Once you've listened to this podcast episode, please search back through the awesome catalogue of episodes on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn or via the website at inspirationforteachers.com to subscribe and receive our free interviews. You'll find a richness of content that is bursting with knowledge, practical solutions and thought-provoking ideas to enrich your educational bubble. Today's episode is looking into the exciting new science surrounding scientific research and motivation. Now, I'm not going to be breaking down the science behind motivation, even though it's totally awesome. What I will be focusing on in this podcast workshop is a practical example of how autonomy-based motivation models can lead to innovative ideas with the purpose of genuinely adding value in an educational setting to the school, its teachers, learners and wider community. So let's get started. First of all, I'm a huge Dan Pink fan. He is the author of 5 provocative best-selling books about the changing world of work. So much of what Dan knows has a direct impact on what I teach, which is business and ICT. So I use a lot of his ideas, talks and videos in my lessons. I recently read Drive, his latest book that investigates and reflects on the 4 decades of scientific research on human motivation. Dan exposes the mismatch between what science knows and what business does. In the book, he examines 3 elements of true motivation: autonomy, mastery and purpose, and offers smart and surprising techniques for putting these into action. Hopefully you've had an opportunity to read the book, and if so, I'm hoping you'll share my enthusiasm for one of the case studies that Dan examines with regards to the business model of motivation and autonomy. And that is FedEx Days, which is the focus of this episode today. FedEx Days were invented by an Australian software company, Atlassian. These one-day bursts of autonomy allow people to work on anything they want to, as long as it's not part of their regular job, provided that they show what they've created to their colleagues 24 hours later. Atlassian dubbed these innovative jamborees FedEx Days because participants have to deliver something overnight. They can work on anything, for example, developing a new product idea. The reason I've selected this model as an interesting one for professional development within schools is because it provides the opportunity to achieve autonomy-based professional learning that directly impacts on the innovative nature of the school, but also leads to high levels of motivation and wider impact. Now, I know we're not in the business of product development, but many of the ideas surrounding FedEx Days could be used within our school settings to drive educational reform, improve teaching and learning, develop high levels of staff engagement and professional development. By allowing individuals and groups of people to work together, and collaborating outside their subject areas, working cross-curricularly, or extending the FedEx time to collaborate outside the school gates could have a significant impact not only on the teaching learning, but staff motivation and community engagement. Now, I'll acknowledge it's a risky idea because there is no prescriptive formula surrounding the model and what participants must achieve by the end of the 24 hours, but it is self-directed discovery. It provides staff with the opportunity to make a difference to an area of the school which they may not have a current influence on. It will challenge the status quo, but it may lead to really interesting discoveries about what staff can do, where their unknown passions lie, and ultimately bring about a real sense of fulfillment, well-being and motivation within the school. So knowing the potential risk of launching a large-scale FedEx Day within a school, and it backfiring, and then it dying a death, start with cautionary optimism and trial it with a smaller group of volunteers before rolling out the concept across the school. I believe it's an amazing opportunity to deliver real value to the school and to all of its stakeholders. So let's say you've taken that step and you've carried out a FedEx Day. How could we construct the delivery of the feedback? It would depend on the scale of the FedEx Day, but feedback delivery could take the form of presenters on a carousel, where individuals or group of individuals present to the whole school at the same time, with the audience circulating around their presentations and identifying what they think is of value. After a designated time, there could be a short break, where the carousel of presenters switch roles and the session continues with a new group of presenters feeding back their FedEx Day ideas and discoveries. Imagine the creative sparks that would be generated off the back of such an autonomy-driven CPD session. Sessions are self-steering, it would generate high levels of motivation and energy, new ideas would be discovered, it would even lead to longer-term professional development pursuits where individuals begin to collaborate organically across the school. FedEx Days are a great idea and have been proven to work in the world of business, so it's exciting that we can adopt this model as part of our own professional development within education. Before we conclude this episode, I'd like to leave you with a couple of parting pieces of guidance. If you've not read Drive by Dan Pink, please do. It will challenge what you think you know about motivation, and it will certainly allow you to apply it to your own professional development, but also how you motivate students within your lessons. If you are tempted to introduce a FedEx Day within your school, start with a small group of volunteers. Remember, they can work on anything, with anybody, but they must present what they have created within 24 hours. Think carefully as to how the feedback of what individuals or groups of individuals presents impacts on the whole school. You might like to use the feedback carousel formula that I've suggested. If you've introduced FedEx Days as part of your school's professional development process, or if you're just setting out, I would love to hear your ideas and what you and your colleagues have created and the discoveries that you've made. Please tweet me at Inspiration4T or drop me an email. And if you'd like to know more about our professional development models that work, head over to the website inspirationforteachers.com and register your interest on our sign-up page. Thanks again for joining me on another episode of Inspiration for Teachers. Don't forget to explore our amazing educator interviews, and I look forward to you joining me on the next episode.
Thank you for joining us today on Inspiration for Teachers. For more resources, tips and advice, visit our website, inspirationforteachers.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, we would love to connect with you. Just click like on our Facebook page at facebook.com/inspirationforteachers.